So Melody, you wanna go ahead and talk to us a little bit, or myself and our viewers, a little bit about what roles we were helping you with and what the results were with the Orion placement?
So I was looking for radiation therapists. I didn't care if they were new grads or if they had a lot of experience. I had been looking for quite a while when you guys contacted me. And actually, you guys filled that position very quickly for me.
Yeah, I remember our initial conversation, and it's always a bit of a risk for a contingent recruiting firm. Do we want to take this on? And you are actually one of our very first clients where we had to think creatively about how we're going to attract candidates there. Because from I think our initial conversation, you had been at it for a while. It's not like New York City where it's super populated. So we had to, really get in the trenches and try to relocate somebody, flesh out some conversations. Why are you moving? Why are you open to relocating and things like that?
Yeah.
So what were the challenges? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that was a challenge for us. Like, what was the challenge for you? You wouldn't be talking to us unless you needed help.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure if you're familiar with ARRT. They've done a hiring strategy for the next like 4 or 5 years. And all they talk about is the fact that this is going to be a very difficult position to fill, coming down the road. And that's exactly what it was. It's so difficult to find somebody who wants to stay in one place. There's a lot of locum opportunities out there. And although we had locums here before I got hired on, and I just found that locums just didn't have the heart to the company that, a full-time signed on therapist has. I mean, literally the locums would say, I don't do that. I just come to, run the machine. And, the attitude is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we need good people to be able to help us sort through that. I mean, my day to day is so busy and it's crazy. And I know people are like, oh, what do you do? Well, everything, everything happens. The machine breaks, I have to find coverage. I mean, I don't have time to chase people. And with it getting harder and harder, I just see this as so much better for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, bandwidth is, top one of the top reasons why our clients decide to work with us. We're doing all the work. And obviously you still have to interview, but it takes away many steps within that recruiting funnel. I'd love to get back to the ART piece in just a bit. Maybe there's some macro reasons for this, but so before we started recording, you were talking about one of the three hires that we placed for you, radiation therapist Sari. How are they doing? You mentioned
Oh,
she's
yeah.
got
Ah,
great tangibles, really nice personality.
yeah, so Sari was the first one that we hired from you guys. She came from St. Louis. She moved to Seattle. She was really interested in, she's from South Korea, so this area is much closer. She can get a direct flight. And she's just a joy. She's incredible. If I send her to another clinic, because I run three, everybody at that clinic, their whole attitude changes when she walks in the room. She's just so full of personality and bubbly and friendly and funny. And yeah, I don't think I could have ever replaced her with anybody else. She's fabulous. And then I also got Key from you guys. He was directly out of school. Sari was not directly out of school. She had a couple of years experience. I'm finding that it's a little bit more challenging, but again, it's going to be challenging anytime you take on a new grad. And he's picking up things and he's really curious to learn. And that's the good thing is I'm here because this is what I want to do for good. And so I want to learn everything I can learn and be the best therapist. And that's his attitude, which is really, really good.
That's great. Okay. Um, and I know we were working on a dosimetrist role, which, by the way, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, because when we took it on, we're like, we've never done this before, and that was another roll of the dice. We're like, we weren't sure if we should take it, and we tried it, and I feel like we were pretty close on a couple hires, but we had some changes on your end, and we weren't ultimately able to make it happen.
Yeah. It's hard because dosimetrists, they used to be right at the clinic. So if a therapist had a question with a plan or they had an issue, they could go right to that person. Nowadays, after COVID, everybody started doing remote, and nowadays, dosimetrists, they want to be remote.
Yeah,
So that can be a problem. You've got a lot of dosimetrists now that are working, two clinics, two different companies, because they're working from home. And so, yeah, it's been challenging. Dosimetrists don't want to come into the office.
yeah. So I'd love to transition here a little bit to ARRT. Do you think do you think people are going to be coming into the industry at a lower level as well? Like, are there any macro things on the horizon as it relates to hiring where you can see a challenge, or is it kind of more what you referenced before?
I think that the number one, the biggest challenge we have is that more and more centers are opening up, but the colleges are still taking the same amount of people. So, for instance, Bellevue Community College only takes 10 people at to join every year. So that's a 2-year program, but now Bellevue Community College has changed to a 4-year program. So they're taking 10 students, but those students have to go through 4 years now.
Got
So
it.
those students won't be available to us for 4 years. So you have competition in the marketplace, you have new places opening up, you have an older, more stabilized population. They go in, they stay at a clinic for, I've got therapists that have been here for 20, 25 years. They get married, buy a house, they want to stay there. They don't want to go anywhere. And it's just going to be, I believe it's going to be very, very tough in the future to recruit therapists.
Is there anything that you can do to combat that? I mean, for instance, COVID happened. This is super generalized, but as a way to attract top talent, hybrid, remote roles, what have you, changing the culture, making it more in line with the younger demographic. How about for this? Like, how can we attract talent for a role like this?
Okay, so yeah, radiation therapists have to be on the property. There's no way that you can do it remotely. That's just impossible. I do believe that a lot of it is like when students first come out, their biggest thing is how much money am I going to make? But then once they get into those positions and they choose based on money, they find that money isn't always the answer. You have a lot of hospitals, especially like if we talk about Seattle, right? Seattle therapist has to pay union fees. They have to pay for parking. They have to buy their own uniforms. They don't get bonuses. They don't get profit sharing. They don't get, you know, their license paid for. The hospitals are just cut and dried. This is the money you're going to get. But when you start to look at all of the different things that you're not being offered, you realize that the better way to go is the private practice. So we're privately owned. We're owned by 4 doctors. We do all those things. We pay for your licenses every single year. We pay for your scrubs. We just did a 4% profit sharing this last December. We get a Christmas bonus. We get our scrubs paid for. I mean, we don't have to pay union dues. And I think it's going to be to the culture where we're more appreciative. I think COVID got everybody just so in their own little boxes that that they started thinking it was just about money. But I think everybody's coming back to realize that it is about, what can they do for me?
Yeah, I think that's across industries too. I'm surprised actually by the number of job seekers who, of course, we know their compensation target, but they're very much interested in the other stuff, whether it be culture, work from home, benefits, parking in certain areas. It's like little stuff that matters. It takes
Yeah,
away a lot of time out of your day too. Like if,
yeah. I did I did a worksheet because one of my doctors challenged me and said, why should they come to work for us? She said, I know why they should come to work for us, but I want you to do the sheet and figure out how much they're going to pay in parking a month, how much they're going to pay for, throughout their whole. And by the time I had subtracted everything that they have to pay for and parking and union fees, they were literally making about $8 less an hour.
wow.
So yeah, it's just crazy. And it's only going to get worse. I'm sorry, but hospitals are either a nonprofit entity, so they're, scraping by, they're doing the least amount of money that they can for people, and or they're profit based, and the same thing. They want to get more and more money.
Yeah. Yeah. And positioning these perks that you mentioned that isn't shown in the salary range or the hourly range. That's the whole thing from a recruiting standpoint is how do we get that front and center where people see it and be able to articulate it to them where they realize, hey, this is actually better than it might appear salary wise. Like you're saving on this, you're getting parking paid for all these different things. So why'd you get into the field? At least from LinkedIn, I can only see that you got into it in 2010. What
Yeah.
prompted you to go ahead and do that?
So my mother and my older sister both were diagnosed with cancer at the same time. My mother survived, my sister did not. So I went with my mom to chemo and I went with my mom to radiation therapy. And my mom was like, I was in the tourist industry running hotels and I just, was done with that. Just wanted to get out. I'd been doing that forever. And my mom was like, "Oh, you should be a chemo nurse." And I was like, "Mom, a chemo nurse sees their patients once a month. Whereas a radiation therapist sees their patient every single day and they build a rapport with that person and they get to know them and their ins and outs and they talk to you about things that they don't talk to other people about. And they just want to be remembered. They want somebody to be there that they can tell all of the things that they may not be able to tell, like their children. I'm scared. How am I going to survive this? Those are things you can't ask your family members that kind of thing, but you can ask a radiation therapist and we'll give you a real answer. We'll tell you the truth. And we'll be right there by your side, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I have patients from 2010 that I treated that I still am in contact with. I go on vacation with. Literally, I'm going to Brazil in 2 weeks with a previous patient who I've traveled with her every once in a while.
That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's got to be gratifying to be in a field like that. My line of work is much different. It's owning a business, it's procedures and numbers and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it definitely takes a certain type of person to be like in a caregiving realm where you really have to um, care about people probably to like what you do to an extent. You probably see a lot of deep stuff and like heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I could tell you, I've seen people that were totally curable and they said, "Oh, I'm going to go do holistic stuff." And then they come back 6 months later and they're not curable anymore,
Netflix documentary on that recently. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about Belle, influencer, Instagram influencer, and she got big on Instagram. and she said she had terminal brain cancer. It was a total lie. And she said, I'm doing all this holistic stuff, which was a lie too. And then so people were not doing the right thing, and they were trying that, and people were dying.
Yeah. Well, and it's not that I'm saying don't ever try holistic stuff. I believe that everything goes hand in hand. I have a patient who was a breast uh, cancer patient. She swore by acupuncture. Absolutely swore by it, but she didn't try to cure herself with it. She said that it kept her skin from burning. Do it. If that, add it to your regimen. Do what makes you feel good, but don't discontinue the things that are medical that we know will help you.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to know them both.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a weird document. You probably like it actually because it's in your field, but it was fascinating. It was evil, actually.
Oh, terrible. Yeah, yeah, can't even imagine.
So shifting a little bit back toward hiring, do you have a hiring philosophy when hiring for these roles generally, or do you have anything specific that you do in terms of the interview process or assessments or anything like that to dial into what you're looking for?
So, I work with a nurse manager here, and her philosophy is to ask all of those questions that you read on Indeed that say, what are you going to bring to the table? Why should I hire you over somebody else? Whereas I'm more of a believer of listen to what the person tells you and they are. So tell me about yourself. Tell me what you do. Tell me why you got into this field. Tell me what your future looks like. Those kind of questions. Because if I can see, when I say to a person, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What future do you want? And I can see them get excited. Oh, I want to be a therapist and I want to learn, new things. And, those are the people that I want. I want the people that are enthusiastic about life in general. You just, this is a very difficult field, and we get burnt out a lot more than other fields. I mean, nurses, yes, of course. Radiation oncology nurses, yes. There's a lot of burnout. But we also get burnout because we see, for instance, we saw a patient in one of my centers for lung cancer. Really nice guy, incredible guy. Just found out 2 days ago that he's coming back because it's moved to his brain. Literally, the doctor was in tears, and it was a female doctor, but I mean, the thing is we have to be able to overcome those things and be positive and say, we're here for you. We're going to do whatever we can. We're going to walk by your side through this. And those are the people, the ones that are really in it to, make a difference. That's what I look for.
Out of curiosity, is it like a thing where you've been in the field for say 10 years and you're I don't know the word for it, desensitized to it? Do you start creating like a negative world outlook? Or is it like to be in this field and sustain in this field, you have to just be wired to be positive? Have you noticed any trends with that, just out of curiosity?
I think it's a little bit of both. I have 19 therapists that work for me, and there are times when I can see that they're being overwhelmed, and it's not a matter of um, it's not a matter of positivity. It's a matter or not being positive. It's a matter of empathy. So when I see my therapist losing empathy, I realize that it's time to let them take a step back. Let's put them into CT for a while. Let's put them on HDR for a while. I worked with pediatric children in Saudi Arabia. I did it for 18 months. And I finally just went to my boss and said, I can't do this anymore. I need off of this machine. I'm done. And it happened. And it's not that I wasn't empathetic anymore. It was just that I couldn't take it anymore. it's just very difficult. And it happens to all of us. And, we just have to step back and recharge. There's a lot of things that, people say, oh, do this, do that, but realistically, you have to have a work-life balance. Absolutely have to have a work-life balance. You have to be able to leave it at work, and you have to be able to leave home at home. And understanding that every once in a while is going to happen to you, that volumes towards, making you a better therapist. And communication, like I had a therapist who said, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed right now. We have 36 patients and it's really, really busy, and a bunch of them are palliative, and I'm just overwhelmed. And, everybody was like, oh, why is he saying that? But the thing is like, I'd rather he say that than he just become, a stone, just, I'm not interested. I'm not taking care. I'm just, you know, blinders on to just be a robot. And, okay, yes, you're overwhelmed, and just being able to give them support even. And, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Just asking the right questions, that can help a lot too.
Yeah, burnout's a big thing. I know it's like a different industry, but a friend of mine's a legal assistant for personal injury cases. It can be one of those things where you don't see the best of people, like in general, and then you see catastrophic injuries and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And like she's really got to be aware of, all right, where am I at burnout wise? Like, how do I feel? And I
Yeah.
would think in your realm, it's that times like 10, just to see what happens to people and families and communicate with them on a daily basis and have to deliver bad news or take part in it at least. So, as a chief radiation therapist, what would you give in terms of advice to other leaders in the space as far as recruiting or just in general?
Um, so, I really believe in trusting my people and not micromanaging them. I give them a lot of freedom to make decisions, and they've made mistakes. Their decisions haven't always been 100% what they needed to be, but we've talked through those things, and they realize that I still support them, and we just figure out what would have been a better solution. I believe that you need to be positive, as far as the way that you speak to your employees. Some just be like, I have some really silly therapists, and even though that's not my nature, when I'm with them, I can join into that joy, because it brings them joy, it makes them happy in the workplace. Um, so I would just say, you're a reflection, your crew is totally a reflection of you. So if you're positive, if you compliment your people, if you build relationships, one of the things I had to tell a therapist the other day was, when you're talking to somebody, look them in the eye. Look them in the eye. I mean, it's such a simple thing. And I had patients saying, I think she's uncomfortable with me. Well, she was uncomfortable with herself, and I think that those are the things that help you build rapport with your employees and with your patients, is just listening.
Awesome. All right, Melody, thank you so much for your time. I'll stop recording. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.